Defense made a motion for a mistrial. Prosecutor was up to some fuckery. Potentially damaging evidence, no basis for it. The judge specifically said, do not ask that question. Do not use that as evidence. She walked right down the path and asked the question. It may be over on Tuesday morning. Batman Bruce Wayne bitch snitch. Gerald Brooks, your constitution does not apply to me because I'm a sovereign citizen, a traveler on the land. I'm from the Moorish Empire or whatever, bitch snitch. Because they're so fucking absurd. If you want to be a sovereign citizen, just do yourself a favor first. Go to YouTube here and just get every sovereign citizen that's ever been before. Find me one that won. God dang, you're right. Don't go down this. It's not the path. Don't have time for stupidity. Some clever dick on the internet didn't find the great loophole in all of the world's law. Bitch snitch. God dang, you're right. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. God dang, you're right. Moorish Empire. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. Moorish Empire. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. The late evening U.S. people.
And tonight on the ABC News, OJ Simpson kills one more person. Oh my god, I can't believe it. OJ kills another person? I didn't know Minute Maid orange juice could kill people. I guess what happened here was that someone poisoned the OJ and, killed somebody. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on ABC, the horrible news in the whole world. Thank you. Well, I hope you liked how I did my commercials. I'm gonna be a star. I've always been a star. I just have to go to Hollywood, and then I'll just, everybody would be like going, oh, I want your autograph. Oh, I want your autograph. But anyways, see you later. Adios. Ciao.
Ari Jacob, adios, ciao. That's probably the final time we're going to be seeing that, because today we're going to wrap up the OJ Simpson trial. If it kills me, and it very well might, we're gonna go straight through to the jury verdict. We got about another hour and 25 minutes of closing arguments, and then we're going to go into the verdict, and then we will call it the end of OJ Simpson trial on this channel. I'm just putting together the last part of the poll here. All right, simple poll today. Let's see. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all like 5 of you that are here. And here we go. Here's today's poll. Simple, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, vote. OJ was guilty, not guilty, or guilty but not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are your 3 choices. What is your opinion? What's your opinion on that? Was he guilty? Did he do it? Was he not guilty? Or was he guilty but they just failed to prove it? I'm starting to get a little bit of a cold here, so I'll try not to sniff or clear my throat as much as possible, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. And hopefully, this isn't the last time this is the last time we're going to see Ari's video here, the OJ Simpson video. Of course, she'll be back on the stream here. Usually on the F and Friday, she pops in for a bit and says hi. We might have her on for a special show anyway, because we're coming up on my 2-year anniversary doing this YouTube stuff. May 2nd is the 2-year anniversary, so we'll be having some interviews and some things leading up to the big 2-year bash. So that's what we're looking at in the future. But today, so we got about an hour and 35 minutes worth of trial to get through, and the way I talk, it's going to be about 6 hours of actual airtime. So we'll try to keep it down to a minimum. Let's see. You got the doggos here. Oh, they're so cute. Yoda is sleeping on top of Strawberry. Oh, but if I move just to give you a little, see if we can just move the camera very quietly over there. Let's see if we can give you a sneak peek here. Sneak peek, bitch snitch. Oh, let's see if we can give you. Try not to disturb them with camera movements. Okay, here we go. This is just a little sneak peek of what can be yours if we unlock the emotional support potatoes later. Look at that. Yoda's just sleeping on top of Strawberry. Isn't that cute? Oh, that's just the cutest little thing, isn't it? Yoda's just snoozing on top of Strawberry's back in front of the heater. Oh, so there we are. Anyway, that's that's so cute when they do that. Anyway, that's what's awaiting for you when we unlock the support potato pigs achievement, if that ever happens, and if they're sitting there in that same position. Otherwise, they'll be doing something else. All right. Again, here we go. The final portion of the prosecution's rebuttal in the OJ Simpson trial. Then we're going to go to the verdict. No booze today, and we're coming up on the tail end of, after every F Friday, I do a week-long sober week, just like a dry week, just so I can check myself, just so I can ensure myself that I'm not becoming dependent on anything. I don't have any, possible, addiction red flags or things like that. So I always do a dry week after an F Friday, and this was a particularly bad one because it was up against St. Patrick's Day weekend. So it was about a 48-hour bender with 5 groups of friends and all of you. So it's all coming to an end tomorrow. Yay. The dry week finishes tomorrow. So today we just have a little bit of Pepsi Zero lime flavor to keep us through and to celebrate the end of the OJ Simpson trial. We have the lovely and one of my favorite Cuban cigars, the Partagas D4. What an amazing cigar that is. Beautiful, beautiful. It's one of my favorite Cuban cigars. All right. There we go. All the stuff is out of the way. All right, let's do this. We got all 115 people here. So if everybody gives $1, we can unlock the doggo cam. All right, let's go. Let's see where are we at here. Oh, stop screen is exactly the opposite of what I wanted to do. I wanted to present the screen. So let's go back to share screen. And they were talking about, when we last dropped this off, they were talking about something. No clue what it was. That's the camera we want. We're just gonna pick it up in the middle of the stream because I just want to get through it. I don't want to backtrack. And we've given everybody enough time to get in here. So let me find the MST3K overlay, and then we will go. Where is it? It's moving up in the world. There we go. All right, ladies and germs, let's go. Hey, I know. Let's turn on the volume. Oh, Barry, no, not in court. Oh, he's not picking. He's just ruminating.
Prince vial, and they were saying that when the blood vial was opened, that somehow contaminated the bin.
This is the look of a man who's had all the shit he can take. This is just the look of a man who's at the end of his wits. He's like, I cannot listen to her talk about things. She has no clue what she's talking about any longer. This is a man who has just had enough. Poor Barry. Poor Barry. You're a trooper, my man. All right, and we do have Tammy Fayette. What's up, Tammy Fayette? Hi, Jeff. Toward the doggo cam. Oh, that's so very darn sweetie. Lynn is up here as well with the super sticker, the 99-cent super sticker 100. Thank you, Tammy Fayette, and thank you, Lynn. Appreciate the support. It doesn't help Barry's migraine. Barry's probably got a migraine right now. He's just like, oh, God. I want to go back and I do have to go back to see just what she was talking about that put him over the edge there. I'll go back 1 minute.
Other things, everything else in my life except for the science stuff.
Oh, that's right. She was saying, I know all this is confusing. All this science stuff is confusing to you because it's really confusing to me. And I was jumping on her case because she should not be saying it's too confusing for her to understand. She should be saying it's very simple. Let me walk you through it. But now she's like, I don't understand all this scientific stuff. And I'm sure you're just as stupid as I am.
All right. Here are the reasons why you can have faith and you can rely on the validity of the results of the testing of the Bundy blood trail. Number one, you've heard us talk about it too many times. The substrate controls were clean. Okay, they should have showed contamination, and they didn't. And they were tested, and they came up clean. And what that gives you is quality assurance. You know you can rely on the result because you have this. The bindles were closed. That's very
American
important.
Dreamer, thank you so much for the
will,
$2.
The testimony concerning opening of the blood vial, the defendant's reference vial.
Thank you so much.
And they were saying that when the...
Holy crap, the court is loud. Is it just me or is the court really, really loud? It seems like they're exceptionally loud to me.
Blood vial was opened, that
should be a little better.
Contaminated the bindles and the swatches that were taken from the Bundy walk, that there was some aerosol effect, that his blood was spraying all over the place. Well,
he's just so done. I know I said I wasn't going to stop this, but I can't just look at that look on his face. He's just, that's total end of the rope. She's like, you're on my last damn nerve, Marcia Clark. I cannot sit here any longer.
Problem with that is that Colin's testimony was when he opened the blood vial of the defendant's reference blood, he was 10 to 15 feet away from the swatches, and these swatches were in closed bindles, and not only that, but the bindles were inside envelopes that were closed. Now, what testimony have you heard in this trial that DNA can fly from a test tube into a closed envelope through a closed bindle onto the swatches? None. In fact, there's testimony to the contrary.
By the way, does your family know about us yet? Why not? No, my family has no idea I'm doing YouTube stuff.
This was not a vacutainer.
Why? Because I haven't told them and they haven't stumbled across it.
It's already been shown to you. And the testimony was...
Give the counsel not a syringe.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I talked over some Barry Scheck exasperation. Oh dear. By the way, so how is when I'm talking and the court's going at the same time? How is the balance? I should be just slightly louder than the court so you can hear me talking over them. In my own ears, it sounds today for some reason it sounds like the court is really loud. Just let me know. That would really help. American Dreamer, yeah. By the way, does your family know about us yet? No, because I haven't told them, and they haven't stumbled across me yet. So we'll see. There's a few friends that I've told. Very few. Oh, the court is slightly louder than me. Huh. That's the opposite of what we want. I'll pull down the court a little bit more. All right. And there was one other thing. Where did it go? It was from Bush McFadden. Ever get the hiccups from a strong cigar like a Partagas D Ford? I don't get hiccups really. I don't know what would be causing that. I don't get the hiccups. I just get like the nicotine poisoning and get all dingy. Just get the headaches. All right, let's see what we missed. Let's watch Barry's big, long, exasperated stand here.
And that brings us to next. There was no vacuum in this test tube. This was not a vacutainer. This was a syringe, and it's already been shown to you. And the testimony was...
Give the counsel not a syringe.
I'm sorry. Isn't that what the test...
No.
Stenopratus?
No, it's a vacutainer tube.
Nope.
No.
Nope. He said it was a syringe, not a
Syringe. I'm sorry,
vacutainer.
stand corrected. He said a syringe.
He said a syringe.
There's no vacuum in the tube?
We'll see.
You have the tape.
Barry's like, why does nobody understand this except me? It's a syringe, but there's a vacuum inside the syringe tube. Why isn't anybody worried? It sucks when you're smarter than everybody else, Barry. You should know that by now.
It was not a vacutainer that was used. It was a syringe. And there was testimony concerning this from Colin Yamauchi as well. And by the way, while we're at it, let me point out something else. Mr. Scheck argued yesterday that Colin Yamauchi, when he opened up the defendant's reference vial,
DNA would not
blood
fly
on his gloves.
It wouldn't fly across the room. Get it? She's got wings. Oh, clip art, the early days. The wings even have air motion. They're flying. DNA would not fly across the room. On the wings of love and through the night. And Janet Burris. It's amazing how much better court audio was then, right? Well, they all had FM wireless mics attached to them, which for some reason courts don't do anymore. Or they never did. I guess these were probably court TVs, but the court doesn't allow doesn't allow court TV, I guess, to wire people up with wireless mics anymore.
And spilled it on the chem wipe, and it sounds to me like he was spilling it all over the place. And I guess if that's true, then there is no missing blood because it got spilled. But the truth of the matter is, and the testimony was that, as Colin Yamauchi told you, when he opened it, he thought he might have gotten a little bit on his gloves, and that he immediately
might have
changed his gloves and threw them away
before
he went to handle anything.
So he thinks he might have got some of the blood, some of the missing blood from the vial. He thinks he might have got some on his gloves, and the first thing he does is hurry and grabs his glove and throws them away and gets new ones. Very freaking convenient.
So you don't have any problems with flying DNA, and you don't have the kind of you don't have the contact
Very
that
convenient.
you need to have in order to show contamination. And by the way, I should indicate to you that Gary Sims, who the defense endorses as being a very good scientist, indicated that he too has had the experience of opening a reference vial and getting a little bit of it out, and then you just you wipe it off, you clean up, it's fine.
Is it really though? Is it really fine?
Okay, all of the swatches that were tested on the Bundy walk were consistent. They all came back to the defendant. That's important for the following reason. If you have contamination, what you should expect to find are results that are out of sync, willy-nilly, if you will. What should have happened is you should have seen the defendant's blood type coming up, for example, in the sample that was taken from the pool of blood under Nicole, where it shouldn't be. You know, remember I told you about 41 and 42?
Willy-nilly.
41 came from the area near Ron Goldman. There was a tree stump that he was curled around, and there was blood on that tree stump. And they recovered it as a representative sample from the crime scene of what his blood type would be. If this was, in fact, contamination, and the defendant's type is flying all over the place, why don't we find it in Ron Goldman's crime scene sample? Why don't we find it in the sample taken from the pool of blood underneath Nicole? We don't. If you had contamination, it should be in other places, places where it doesn't belong. But you don't have that. You only have the...
He's muttering all the Jewish prayers to shut Marcia up. He's just like...
defendant's blood type coming up in the places where the killer dripped blood.
He's like, I give up. All right, that's it.
The other point that was made by the defense. And in order for you to believe that the results of the Bundy blood trail were the result of contamination, you must first believe that all of the DNA on all of the swatches completely and totally degraded. Now, when you think about the fact, as was brought out in testimony, that you can recover DNA through PCR analysis from Egyptian mummies, then how can you possibly buy this story about stains that were recovered a few hours ago, completely and totally degrading, every single one of them, all of the swatches for all of the drops,
Overruled,
completely
Counsel.
degrading to the point where they're able
Barry's
to pick
getting
up
pissed.
contamination. It makes no sense. It's completely illogical. It stands science on its head. So this is a list of all of the reasons that I've just told to you. For all of these reasons, bindles and envelopes were closed, substrate controls were cleaned, swatches were tested and typed consistent with the defendant, which otherwise you would expect to have willy-nilly, you'd have weird results happening.
Again with the willy-nilly.
Every drop in the bud in the
Again with the
trail would have had
willy-nilly.
to completely degrade in order to pick up somebody else's type, and the DNA didn't fly across the room.
On the wings of love and through the night.
Now, there's something else that you should know about this is the following. We did conventional serology. If you recall, on one of the blood drops on the Bundy Walk, item number 49, we did conventional serology, and that means no DNA stuff. That's just the regular, what we call PGM markers. You heard them talk about that. We did a PGM test on the item number 49.
pregnancy
That
test.
came back to the defendant. It put him within 0.5% of the population that could have deposited that blood. So even if you do not take into account the DNA, even Dr. Gertie's, their
Free
expert,
willy-nilly.
conceded that conventional serology is very hardy stuff. And he said, no problem with contamination for PGM typing. That testimony is in 40,198 to 40,199, if you want to review that. He said, in fact,
Don Bunny.
the
Oh, sorry.
conventional testing, when conventional serology comes back the same
It
as
splattered in
DNA
the lab.
testing, it's a good cross-check
From a
for the
syringe
validity of your
or
results.
vacutainer.
And we have that here.
And Tim Swelp, was this the
that.
first big TV case coverage? It was one of the first. I believe the Mendez
Dr. Lee
the
also told you
Menendez
that his
brothers
lab does DNA testing.
trial was
He
the
felt that
first.
molecular
And
biologists
this would have been the
like Dr.
second.
Gertie should not tell forensic scientists what to do or how to do it or when to do DNA testing. And he said that forensic scientists are in the best position to know. That was Dr. Lee's opinion. He even indicated, and there's a portion of the transcript you could have read back, he was asked a series of hypothetical questions. For example, that an officer would go to a crime scene and pick up blood on his shoe and then go and give that bloody shoe to the criminalist to test for DNA. And he was asked, Dr. Lee, would you get valid results if you did such testing? Wouldn't you be worried about contamination because you didn't collect carefully? You just collected it by picking it up on your shoe. He said, no, you could get valid results doing that, even doing it that way. And you know we didn't do that in this case. You know we picked it up correctly in this case.
Yeah, the Lyle and what the hell was his brother's name? Doug. Lyle and his brother Menendez killing their parents. That trial was 1991. This is 1995.
All right. So we talked about contamination. Let's talk about planting. First of all, the socks. With respect to the socks, there was testimony and then there was argument about this sheet. And you're going to have it. It's in evidence, isn't it, Your Honor? The blood search sheet, worksheet? Yes, it is. Good, good.
Good.
You'll be able to see it. You'll see the whole thing. The whole controversy, all the shoutings about this, and Michelle Kessler
Eric, that's
testified
right.
to it late in the trial.
Lyle and Eric Menendez.
It showed that as to the socks, there was a notation that there was to be a blood search done. At the moment that they looked at them, there was none obvious. Now, what the defense wants you to believe is that they had already done a blood search and there was none obvious. When you look at the sheets, you will see what the truth is. As Michelle said, it's really very simple. You can see that in the column where it says blood search, it's a scheduled item list of things to be done. A blood search was to be done. It had not yet been done. You want confirmation? Check the testimony of their witness, Dr. Bodden. Dr. Bodden was asked about that. And Dr. Baden
Dr.
made notes about
Mountbatten, a
his
member of the
interview
royal
or his
family.
contact with Michelle Kessler early on in the case. And here's what they had to say. They were going over Dr. Baden's notes of when he was reviewing the evidence at page 41-270. Question, and what does that say? Answer, number 13, 2 dark socks, no analysis yet. Question, do you see anything written regarding no blood observed? Answer, we didn't write that down. No, there was no blood observed or else I would have included it. Question, now doctor, what does no analysis yet refer to? Answer, Ms. Kessler told me that no analysis had yet been done on the socks by the Los Angeles Police Department, and we didn't do any further analysis on it. That was a testimony of Dr. Baden. That's what Michelle Kessler told him. There was some further testimony that you might find interesting from Dr. Baden, and that's concerning how visible blood would be on those black socks under normal lighting conditions such as we're on here right now. You may recall that I asked Mr. McDonald about that a little bit, and he said, no, you'd need high-intensity light because those dark socks, it's very hard to see blood stains on them. At page 41-272, there was questioning of Dr. Baden that went as follows. Question, what was the lighting like at the time of your observations? Answer, not very bright. It was a little better than the better lighting than here presently, but not very bright. Question, not what you would describe as the kind of ideal lighting for conducting a close visual examination of something like a dark pair of socks. Answer, yes, that's fair. Question, there was no high intensity lighting, was there? Answer, that's correct. Question, and high intensity lighting is the kind of lighting that you would like to have when conducting a close visual inspection of an item like black socks, right? Answer, that's correct. Yes. Big mystery.
Is it really, though?
Now, what's even sillier about this argument, number one thing, it seems that what the defense is arguing here is that somebody went and took the socks out of the hamper and put them on the floor. First thing I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, why? Why? Why not just come in and say, we went through his hamper, we found the socks, we took them? Why not? What difference does it make? It makes it more incriminating somehow that the socks are on the floor? It doesn't matter. The question is what's on the socks, not where the socks are. They're in the hamper, they're on the floor, same thing. No difference. If you'd rather consider them as having been in the hamper, consider it. That's not the way he left them, but you know, what's the point of doing something like that? That's silly. That makes no sense. Now think of this too. Why would you, it would seem that what they're basically saying, there was no blood on the socks. That's what they're saying, right? Why would you plant a blank pair of socks and then go back 2 months later and say, I forgot I was supposed to plant blood on them. What have I been thinking? I got to go back and put the blood there. Does that make any sense to you at all? I mean, there's no logic to this.
Makes sense.
This defies common sense. You have to buy this. You have to buy
looking like
that
a fool
story,
with your socks on
or
the
else
floor.
The defendant is guilty. That's it. And who could think like this? I mean, this is not only tortured logic. This is out the window. This is over the line.
It's off the chain.
This is, talk about doesn't pass the laugh test. Only it's not really very funny. It's not funny what they're saying, but it's crazy.
Well,
Now,
Bush, I
so
can't
then
fault
they
her
give
for
you the
that.
stuff about the
I
surface.
literally
three.
throw
They
my
have the
clothes
little
on the floor right
microscopic
next to
red
the
balls that
hamper
they
a
talk
lot
about.
of the time.
Now, the truth of the matter was that the
'Cause I'm
testimony from
single.
Mr. McDonald and from Dr. Lee, I believe, but certainly Mr. McDonald, was that he could not say that those little microscopic balls on surface 3
Chris
came
Darden.
only from surface 2.
Sorry.
In other words, and if it didn't, if you can't say that, then you don't have any evidence of planting. What you have there is a couple of the other things that were indicated. For example, you saw the photograph of the socks. They were inside out. The toe was lying on the ankle. And we know that his blood was on the toe. With his blood lying on the toe, pressing on the inside of the ankle, that would be on surface 3, you have the possibility of transfer right there. Another possibility that was pointed out was the phenol test, where you can
How
see
would he
the
get blood on
photographs.
the toe if he was wearing
There's a
shoes?
drop there of moisture in the photograph. You touch it to the sock, you swab around for blood, and then you can get a wet transfer. But if somebody goes to plant blood, first of all, why would you plant blood on black socks that no one can see? But that's another story. That makes no sense either. But assume you do. Assume you do. Aren't you going to plant enough so it will be found and it will be typable and they'll find it and they'll see it? In which case, if you do that, you don't wind up with little microscopic balls that you can't hardly see except under
Just
high
like Chris
magnification. You're going to wind up with something there. It's going to go bleeding through into the other side. Makes no sense. This makes no sense. And who did that? When did they do it? How did they do it? None of these things are explained to you. It's just thrown out there. It's like I was telling you, a lawyer says so, doesn't make it so. Look for the evidence, look for the proof.
Exactly, Marcia.
Look how, look when, look who. Do you have any of that? You have none of it. Not only don't you have that, but you have no logic to go with it. There's no logic to what they're saying. It makes no sense, and it didn't happen. Not only do you know that it makes no sense, but now we've proven it didn't happen. We did the EDTA test. You look at those graphs. They tell you it didn't happen. Not only have we proven our case, we've disproven theirs. How much more could you ask?
Excuse me, I'll interrupt my diatribe to find my place, and then I'll resume my diatribe momentarily. Thank you very much. As soon as
the rear gate.
Here we go.
That's another one they want you to believe blood was planted on. Now, I've already talked to you about this a little bit.
Except there was never any evidence that he actually owned a pair of Bruno Magli shoes.
They were making a lot of arguments about the blood was not degraded on the rear gate, and therefore you should believe that because there were high amounts of DNA in it, that it had to be planted. Well, we've proven that that wasn't true with the EDTA test. So you know that's not so. You have other assurances, though. As I told you, there was degradation. The EAP degraded to a B, and the PGM
Chris
degraded
Darden's
as well.
thinking about some degradation.
So there is degradation on that rear gate. It was exposed.
He's thinking about some degradation on that rear gate, let me tell you.
But then I think
it's like, oh, yeah,
it was
Marcia,
really...
I'm going to show you degradation on the rear gate.
The most telling of all, Officer Risky, the first officer on the scene. It's been a long time since you've seen his face. He was very early on in this case, but he was very honest. He was very candid. Even defense counsel agrees. And
yes, the photograph of OJ Simpson in Bruno Magli shoes in Buffalo, New York during a football game, provided by the wardrobe department. There's no evidence he ever personally owned a pair of Bruno Magli shoes in California. Dun, dun, dun.
And this is what he had to say about that, page 14,068. Question. Now, when you went out through the rear gate, were you able to see any other blood drops? Answer. I met with my partner at the rear gate, and yes, I did. And question. How much and how did you happen to see those? Answer. My partner directed my attention to them. Question. And how did he do that? Answer. He just told me he saw blood on the gate and on the driveway, and he showed me where they were with his flashlight. Question. Shone his light on them? Answer. That's correct. Question. Was he staying away from them? Answer. Yes. Officer Risky is describing the actions of his partner, Officer Terrazas, who saw blood on the rear gate. They were the first officers there in the early morning hours, just shortly after midnight, June 13th, 1994. Defense counsel asked, why didn't the dog run out through the rear gate? If it was Mr. Simpson there, he would have run out behind him through the rear gate. You recall that argument yesterday? You know why? Well, you already know the answer.
He was scared of OJ. The dog called 911.
The rear gate was closed because he closed the rear gate. And that's another reason why you know his blood is on that gate. And that's why the dog didn't run out the back. The dog ran out the front because the front gate was open and the rear gate was closed. And Officer Risky told you that too. When they got there, the rear gate was closed and he was careful not to touch it. You can have that testimony right back to you.
I want to touch the rear
dog
gate.
didn't run out the back. But maybe that is also why the dog, after running out the front, ran around to the back. You recall the testimony of the bloody paw prints that went south on Bundy and then went west on Dorothy towards the rear alley, going out to look for his owner?
Overruled, Counsel.
There was testimony from a number of witnesses who were present. The first of them, Officer Risky, who traced those bloody paw prints down Bundy and west on Dorothy. You can have it read back.
Barry's just given up. He's like, Ito wants it done. Ito's not going to sustain any objections. So we're just going to let it roll. The Bronco. Do some Coke.
Now, I think
Or
that,
Pepsi.
first of all, defense counsel wants you to believe that Mark Furman went into that Bronco, and that's why he was able to describe blood inside the Bronco that couldn't be seen on the outside of the Bronco.
Makes sense to me.
Let me just make a logical point to you. If he was in that Bronco doing all these nefarious things, why would he then go out and describe what he saw when he was in the Bronco doing these nefarious things, doing these bad things? He wouldn't admit to knowing anything about the inside of that Bronco. He wouldn't admit to making detailed observations of blood that's inside the Bronco.
He put the blood there, and then he was the one who discovered.
That's just a logical point. But there's more.
A logical point about the
would
guy
have you
you
believe
said is
that
a
the extra
racist liar.
four allele on the PCR testing they found on the steering wheel comes from Mark Furman. Now, defense counsel has made many, many requests, many of them. One of them was to get the officer's hair to eliminate from the Rockingham glove. And we did it. We got hair standards.
Record, Counsel. Proceed.
It was a request.
No, it wasn't.
Proceed.
We got hair standards from all of the officers. No problem, counsel. Let's go look. And we did. And Mark Furman
Take me with
and all
you,
the other
Tammy.
officers
Put
were
me on your
eliminated
phone
from that
and carry me
Caucasian
into the
hair
kitchen.
on the Rockingham glove. A similar request could have been made for the blood of Mark Furman, and it was not. And had it been asked, it would have been done. And that their requests have been honored. Had they made one, they could have been done.
Counsel, move on.
Now, with
Oh,
res-
he got one. Barry, you got one. Relax. You're going. Spoiler, Barry, you're going to win. You don't need to make any more objections. You're going to win.
Back to the cell phone cut. I want to make a point on that. Where is that board?
Oh, Lizbot's.
22, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Let me direct your
Bush.
attention
Stop.
to this one.
Stop, Bush.
You see the blood inside the well of the door handle on the driver's side? Inside? Okay, that's an important blood spot.
Hey, again.
If you think about it, that blood is only going to get in that spot
Oh, don't
If you are
fight, ladies.
sitting
We can
in the
all
car
shower together.
with the door closed and you reach to open it, and in putting your hand on that handle, a bloody knuckle touches the well. That's how that blood gets there. The door closed. You're sitting in the car. That's very important, because what that tells you is that it means that the defendant was driving with a cut hand.
Wait, where are we at?
His hand was already cut when he came back to Rockingham. When he opened that door, that knuckle was cut. It was cut at Bundy. That stain is very important. That stain tells you it was no razor sharp cell phone.
And that's why you
And it
get
didn't
timed
happen
out, King
when he was
Ginger.
getting ready to leave for the airport. It happened earlier that night when he was out. That's what that tells you. That, of course, and the blood in the bathroom. That shows that he was bleeding earlier
That is a weird
he
place
got
for a
down.
door handle.
to see the limo driver. Now, the allegation
got
made
Crazy
about the blood on the
eyes.
console. If I understood the argument that's been made here, it is that The defendant was in the Bronco and he was bleeding. And he dripped some of his blood on the console.
It was that time of the murder.
I got a problem with that already, okay? Because he was cut on the left hand. On the left hand,
Well,
and that's why you have his blood on the left-hand side of the car.
Well, then explain
and
it on the
you have
right
the victim's blood on the console where he dropped the glove. That's why you don't have.
Oh, come on. That's assuming facts, not in evidence.
Let me see if I can describe this better.
But you get to do that in closing.
On the left-hand side, you have the drippings that came back to the defendant. On the right-hand side, you have the smears, okay? And the smears came from the Rockingham glove. The Rockingham glove has the blood of the defendant and Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown. It has all three of them on there, okay? And in a moist condition, it will swipe a little bit like you see here.
Moist.
Now, what they're trying to tell you
moist
is that
swiper,
the
no
defendant
swiping.
dripped blood on that side somehow with his cut left hand, dripped over on the console, and that later Mark Furman came in and just happened to take the bloody Rockingham Bundy glove that did not have the blood of the defendant on it, but swipe exactly where the defendant had dripped on the console. And somehow that's how his blood got mixed up with Ron Goldman's blood on the console. If you wanted to sell this story in Hollywood, they wouldn't buy it because it's so incredible. It's not even funny. It's ludicrous. Okay, this is ludicrous. But above and beyond that,
Ludicrous.
they're
What a
also
great
saying
rapper.
this. They are saying that Dennis Fung collected all of the blood on the console and it was all gone. Then someone came back later and planted blood exactly in the same places it had been before.
That would be the
to look
logical place
exactly
to
the
plant
same
it.
way it had looked before.
That would be the logical way to do it.
This is ridiculous. Talk about makes no sense. Talk about
Sorry to distract you, Marcia.
just unbelievable. You'll have the pictures. You need to look at the pictures. Look at the pictures yourself. Have them back in the jury room. Compare.
Yeah, they're not going to.
Look at all of the pictures you can get your hands on.
They're not
Compare
going
the
to.
blood patterns on this console. The photos that were taken. This one's later. This is September 1st down here, and this one up here was on June 14th. Compare them. You ask yourself. How could this possibly happen? How could it happen that they can duplicate exactly the way the blood looks on June the 14th on September 1st? It can happen. But you need to go back and look at it. You need to get your hands on this stuff yourselves and talk about this because this is so far beyond the pale that only you're seeing yourself and holding this in your hands is believing that they're actually saying this to you. Now, the problem with it really is that you have to buy the planting theory. You have to buy this far out idea, this stuff, because otherwise, if you don't,
Totally
he's guilty.
far out, man.
Guilty. He's got Ron Goldman's blood in his car. What's it doing there? That's it. That's it. He's guilty.
What?
So they have to find an excuse, and that's why you have this flailing about. You have contamination, you have planting, you have contamination and planting and/or planting. You've got everything to explain it all away. Everything.
Marcia.
But the theories get wilder and wilder.
I hope you never lose something. Well, maybe be a life lesson to leave something behind in someone's car and then have them end up being murdered or something thereabouts where your DNA is just found there. You're guilty.
Wilder because the proof is so devastating. There's so much of it and there's so much to explain. Now, here's what really happened. I mean, let's come back to reality here. The truth of the matter is that when the officers got to Rockingham, and this is the state of the record, now we're talking evidence and not fairy tales, okay? State of the evidence is this, ladies and gentlemen. The detectives got to Rockingham. The Bronco was locked. They asked Cato for the key. He couldn't find the
dog
key.
or the person?
They towed it in a locked condition. And on June the 14th, Dennis Fung had to get somebody to Slim Jim the door open so he could get in there.
Oh, yeah,
Slim
Slim Jim that door
That's
open.
the evidence.
Hey, that was pretty quick of me,
Not
wasn't
nearly
it?
as exciting. It's much more boring, but it's the truth.
It's not more boring
It's the truth.
if you're
That's
doing
what
a
happened.
Randy Savage voice.
And so they never did,
And he had
by
to
the way, lock
Slim
the
Jim
car
the
again because
door
they didn't have the keys. And that's why you had all that testimony about the car sitting there at Bertel's and people able to open the door. They couldn't lock it because if they did, they couldn't open it again. They'd have to Slim Jim it. That's the state of the record. That's the truth. And by the way, the blood that was collected that's shown here in the bottom photograph that has the number 26 on it on this exhibit, that blood was collected and sent directly to the Department of Justice. It didn't go through that cesspool they want to call the LAPD. It went straight up to DOJ. And it was tested and it came.
Oh, see, Flux, no. Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage are different. Randy Savage, he's got the voice that comes up here, you know, oh yeah, gotta get. And Hulk Hogan, he's down here, brother. They're kind of the same, but Hulk Hogan's down here. And the other guy, Randy Savage, he's up here in the nose, you know, he's, oh yeah, step into a Slim Jim. Not down here, brother. They're different. This is why I need to drink. It staples
Came
me
back
up.
with the RFLP result of Ron Goldman and the defendant. All right. There was also, briefly, somebody made reference to Detective Muldorfer not seeing blood in the Bronco. Well, that impression, if you had the impression that she was looking for blood in the Bronco and tried to find it but failed, then you were given the wrong impression. And let me correct it very briefly. Question by Mr. Darden. Detective, are you telling us that there was no blood on the console? Answer, no.
Oh, you
Question,
wish, Kaiser.
you were investigating
you
the
wish.
issue of whether or not there was blood on the console.
You
Is that
wish.
correct? Answer, that was not the focus of my investigation. Question.
Leave the Randy Savage impressions to me, Jeff. I've got the voice down. LOL! No, sorry, Kaiser. Sorry, Kaiser. I was doing Randy Savage voices. Had to make sure I put on voices there at the end. I was doing Randy Savage voices before you were born, brother.
The focus of your investigation was Mr. Mraz, correct? Answer, yes. Question. Question, you had learned that he had stolen items from the defendant's vehicle, correct? Answer, yes. Question, and the items that you learned about were credit receipts, is that right? Answer, yes. Question, your investigation was focusing on theft of items.
We'll have a Randy
Answer,
off.
yes. Your investigation wasn't focused on biological evidence, was it? Answer, no. That wasn't her job.
I'm sorry,
Now,
Marcia. We weren't paying attention to you at
I
all.
want to come to a very important piece of evidence.
Nor is the jury.
And that is the bloody shoe print on the Bronco carpet. Shown probably best up here on this top photograph by the number 33. There was testimony that went to this from Mr. Boziak. Now, how do they explain that? Because that's real serious. You know, that shows, that's a very important piece of evidence. We have the Bruno Mollies going down the Bundy Walk in blood, and then we have a bloody imprint right there where you'd put your foot if you were the driver. And what does that look like? That's very highly incriminating. Now, they want to explain this one away by saying that Mark Furman stepped in the blood of Nicole Brown because actually, this is all woven in a bunch of stuff together. That photograph where you see him pointing to the evidence at Bundy, that really wasn't taken at 7 or 6:30 or something as was testified to. No. That was taken before he left to go to Rockingham. And the blood on his shoe dried. He was standing there. He was marching around in her pool of blood. That's what you have to believe. Then he went out to Rockingham. He stepped on the wet grass. He got it wet again. And when he got into this Bronco, which I guess he must have had a Slim Jim with him to break into because it was locked. He got in and he put his foot on that carpet right where you would put it if you were driving it, but he didn't have the key, so why would he be sitting that way? I don't know. But that's the story. That's what you're supposed to believe. Now, there's a bunch of problems with that story that make it impossible. It doesn't fit, it doesn't make sense, and it didn't happen. And here's why. Number one, there was testimony from Mr. Boziak concerning the characteristics of this stain. And that means 33, where the imprint is.
Where the shoe,
and
shoop.
What he said was that there were the S squiggles that were very distinctive of the Silga design of the Bruno Mollies. He said there was not enough distinctive characteristics for him to make an absolute positive identification. But you can see, and I'm going to show you that logic and common sense and your own powers of observation tell you that's the Bruno Mali shoe.
Killing
And
his hungerfying work.
Mr. Boziak told you that he excluded the shoes of all of the officers, including those of Mark Furman, from the bloody shoe prints at Bundy.
Gonna uptown funk you up, Boosh.
Take a break.
Okay.
Take a break, Marcia.
Then I'll hear your comment.
Bite into a Slim Jim. Marcia.
Here was the testimony of Agent Boziak, page 32, 738. Question. With respect to these two exhibits, referring to the exhibits of the officer's shoes, and I'll show you those. Were you able to include or exclude the officer's shoe prints as having created any of the prints that you saw at the Bundy location? Answer. I was able to exclude those officers' footprints as having made any of the distinguishable Silga design that I pointed out previously this morning. That Silga design is totally different than any of the designs of these officers' shoes. And when we come back from the break, I'll show you.
We got a mo raid.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our mid-afternoon recess. Remember all my admonitions to you, and we'll be in recess for 15. All right, let me see counsel at the sidebar with the court, please. Which exhibit is it?
We're looking.
Mo in the house. What's up, Mo Raiders?
What issue is left to resolve?
The issue is 42, and the issue is the state of the record regarding requests for blood samples or PCR results from the investigating officers.
Mo in the
That's
deep
issue.
end, hitting in the chair. What's up, Mo?
I think the state of the record is the request was made and declined. That's my recollection of what happened.
Wait. What are we talking about?
We're talking about two things. We're talking about 42, Nicole Brown Simpson blood pool results,
Yes.
and we're talking about the request for the PCR testing results of any of the investigating officer with regard to the 4 allele on the steering wheel.
Could I ask that Mr. Harmon address the court on that matter because he handled it? I didn't.
And I don't understand.
Good afternoon, Mr. Herman.
Starting with the request, in what seemed like a lifetime ago, we had a lot of requests from the defense. Some of them we acquiesced to initially because we had the material and it was readily available.
Well, let's cut to the chase.
Sure.
What's the state of the record?
The state of the record is many, many months ago, they requested a broad request, all laboratory personnel and a vague request for police personnel. We eventually provided all the PCR typing results for all the police personnel that we had and then that were produced as this trial slowly progressed. And we told them that we didn't have them for police officers. And it is my recollection that that was the end of that and that there was never a formal request made of you to resolve the impasse.
Problem is, this is reference to items not in the record. That's my concern.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
This is something that is not in the record before the jury, though.
Your Honor, may I?
Hold on, I'm not finished talking to Mr. Harmon.
Wait your turn, Barry.
All right, that has not been a subject of question and answers before the jury. Is that correct? My recollection
That
that it
the
has
police
not.
officers were not typed?
Yes.
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.
So you don't get to talk about him during closing.
Mr. Harmon, listen carefully to his answer because his answer accords with your recollection and my recollection. It wasn't a vague request. We requested the typings.
Counsel, the point is it in the record before the jury?
Yes,
And the
no,
answer is
no. But
Wait, no, counsel. That's the issue. If it's not in the record before the jury, then it's not something that's appropriate to have argument made of. Do you agree?
I agree with that. And
All right.
I have a further point. If you may just hear me. And that point is this, because you must instruct the jury to the contrary. As Mr. Harmon is indicating, and as the court recalls, we did make such a request for the typings of the police officers, and they chose not to do them. Mr. Harmon can say now they weren't available, so we didn't produce them, but the record and the truth is we made the request and they did not provide it. What Ms. Clark just told the jury is if requests
I
for
know.
samples were made, they would have been honored. That's untrue. And they should be so instructed. A request was made and it was not honored. Those are the facts. That's what the jury should be instructed. She had no right to say it in the first place, and what she said wasn't true, and that should be corrected.
Thank you.
Your Honor, can I just comment on that?
No, you don't need to comment on that. You know, it's obvious to me we're not going to finish this today.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
So now what's going to happen is Ms. Clark's going to get a second wind over the weekend.
And then I'm going to have to listen to her ramble on for hours again.
You're going to finish in 90 minutes?
Yes,
Okay.
especially if we don't have 90 minutes of argument in between. I'll be done. I will be done, Your Honor.
All right.
Now,
She's going to
I
finish in
had
about
no
30.
knowledge of what, it was my understanding from Mr. Harmon that the request was made. Mr. Harmon said, give me a list of the officers. They never came back to him. And that was the state of the record. And
State of the record is this: no typing results, PCR typing results were made available to the defense by the prosecution during the course of the case. That's the state of the record. That is not
Corrected.
before the jury, and you need to correct that.
okay.
Request was made for it. That's the important point. She said a
right.
request would have been honored, request was made, and it
The
wasn't.
problem, you know what the problem is,
Wait.
Your Honor? It makes it sound as though there was a refusal, and that's not the truth.
Thank you.
What I'm asking you to say, correct your argument that no results, no PCR results of any of the investigating officers were provided to the defense. Need to correct that, period.
I
All right.
can't, Flux.
What about the request? She said request.
Counsel, no.
Well, that's the truth. We made a request and they didn't provide them. She said requests
Sit
would
down.
have
I've
been
heard
honored.
enough. We're going to conclude this.
Not fair.
Deputy Smith, Ms. Clark, you may conclude your summation.
Thank you, Your Honor. Almost done. Okay, let me correct one thing.
Yes, you may correct
With
yourself.
respect to on the steering wheel, the 4 allele, I'm informed by Mr. Harmon that we have not provided PCR results on the investigating officers. I would also remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that I think even Dr. Gerdes conceded that the 4 allele that was found on the steering wheel of the Bronco could have come from anyone driving the car.
And I would like to remind you, that means I lied. That's what that means. I lied. That's what, just thought I'd remind you of that.
And as you know, there was testimony concerning other people driving the car. I think it was the housekeeper or something. Gigi also drives the car. So I was going to tell you about the border and the imprint on the carpet, okay? And I want to show you this. First of all, let me show you Mark Furman's shoe, the one that was excluded that he wore that night when he was at Bundy. It was excluded as having been a Bruno Mali by Mr. Bodziak. And here's the bottom of his shoe.
What exhibit is this, counsel?
It's
Is this from the large board?
from,
I don't know where
It's
it's from. Mark Furman.
you see I think you can see pretty well. There's no squiggles on the heel. That's the important thing. Now, I'm going to ask for Mr. Goldberg to help me out here because he knows this better. There was an overlay made of the way it's a transparency with the way the Bruno Mali Silga sole looks. You can overlay that on this actual carpet stain and see how it lines up. Mr. Bodziak, I would caution you, said that when somebody puts their foot on a carpet, again, this is common sense, you'll move it, you may twist it a little bit, so it's a little fuzzy, but
You
you'll be
may
able
give
to
it
see it.
squiggly lines. Is that what you're saying?
And I'm going to direct your attention, sorry about that, first of all, to this line here that is the border, and then the squiggles in here. And I'm going to have Mr. Goldberg
come
line up the
on.
transparency so you can see what we're talking about.
All right, show us. Show
The
us.
red arrows that are on here, can you see them from where you are? They're
Oh my
little.
God, hurry up.
Okay. Agent Bodziak was the one that marked these features to show what he thought was consistent with the Bruno Mali design.
Ghostery, this lawsuit started the second half of my second year of law school, and it finished at the end of the first half of my third year of law school. So it took half of my 2L, the summer vacation, and the first part of my third year.
390E.
Thank you.
Just a few more hours, and I'll be right home to you. Beth, what can I do? Shrek, I hear you calling. I can't come home right now. Me and the boys are playing.
Can everybody see?
Just can't find
y'all
a
see?
sound. Oh, Barry, what can I do?
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Do we have any evidence? Do we have any evidence back there? If we got some evidence, tell me. I need it now.
Now, what's key and fundamental to your belief that anyone other than the defendant could have put this bloody shoe print in the Bronco, and you recall that the testimony was that the typing came back to Nicole. That was her blood. What's key to your belief that it was not his shoe that put it there is the defense contention that he, in fact, was down in the crime scene pointing to the evidence at Bundy and stepped in her pool of blood before he went to Rockingham. Because if you rely on the state of the record, which states that he did not step down into that area until after he went to Rockingham, he didn't have opportunity to get her blood on his shoes. So the defense contention is that he actually took that photograph before he went to Rockingham, and that's how he got her blood on his shoes. And
Photograph.
That's how the
What a
blood
great
got on
band.
the carpet
One-hit wonders.
of the
Photograph.
defendant's Bronco. However, the testimony elicited early in this trial is completely opposite. Completely opposite, and it's the testimony of an officer whose honesty was praised by defense counsel earlier in argument, Officer Risky.
You
And he
also praised
testified
Furman's
concerning that photograph
honesty in the
as
beginning.
follows. At page 14, 115, question.
Merkins.
And by the time you came around to
Stop
the front,
talking
was it
about
starting
80s
to get
Bush
light?
and Merkin.
Answer, no, it was. Question, still dark? Answer, still dark. Question, what did you do out front? Answer, like I said, maintain security of the crime scene. Question.
Oh,
at
autograph.
some
Sorry.
point, a
Yeah, it was
photographer
autograph.
arrived.
Sorry.
Question, did you have contact with the photographer in the front of the location?
Autograph.
Answer, yes, I did.
Good
Question,
call.
and
Good
was it
catch.
daylight by then?
Good
Answer,
catch, Ginge.
I had talked to him earlier, but he hadn't taken any pictures of the front while I was there. Then he came, it was just starting to get daylight, and he came and he took a couple pictures. Question, now was this the same photographer you had contacted earlier at the rear of the location, the rear alley? Answer, yes, it was. Question, when he came to the front of the location and it was lighter, did you point anything out to him? Answer, no, I didn't. Question, did you see him taking pictures in that front area?
Radio.
Answer, I saw Detective Furman. He was showing him the glove and he took a picture of the glove.
I got that damn
Answer,
song going through my head.
Question.
You're right.
Okay, he was pointing to it.
Yeah, I was thinking of
Answer,
the group autograph.
I believe
saying,
he lifted up the
"Turn
leaves and the plant so he could see it
radio."
better, and he took a picture. Question. And now I'm pointing to it. It's People's 55. You ready? Feed, please, Your Honor.
It does not please your honor. Nothing pleases your honor at this point.
We should mark it as People's 55. And then question. Do you recognize the person in that photograph, sir? Answer, yes, I do. Question, who is that? Answer, it's Detective Furman and the victim. Question, and what's he pointing to? Answer, he's pointing to the glove. Question, the glove and the cap? Answer, the cap. Question, the ones that you saw when you arrived shortly after midnight? Answer, that's correct. Page 14, 118. Question, now what time was it that you were relieved from this crime scene? Answer, 7:15. Question, at 7:15? Answer, that's correct. And in relationship to that time that you left the crime scene, when did Detective Furman appear and point out things to the photographer? Answer, I would say within 40 minutes. I'm not
Ghostery,
really
one more
sure.
stupid comment
Within
like
an
that,
hour.
and I will put you in
Question.
timeout for 5
So
minutes.
it was shortly before you left the crime scene completely? Correct. Right.
That's uncalled for.
So 40 minutes to an hour before Mr. Officer Risky left the scene, and he left at 7:15, is when that photograph was taken. He was there, and he saw it happen. And that was after Mark Furman came back from Rockingham. Mystery solved.
Oh, mystery solved.
And that shoe print
Because I said so.
belongs to the
Enough
defendant.
said. Yeah, we need the thing. Enough said.
What you've seen, ladies and gentlemen, is a very elaborate
And grim.
effort
What a guy.
to make you disbelieve a great wealth of evidence. And what you've heard is basically a conspiracy that extends from Officer Risky to Commander Bushy. Do you realize how many people would have had to have gotten involved in a conspiracy within an hour? Can you imagine how this could happen?
Yeah.
Detective Van Adder and Detective
Yeah, I
Lang never
can.
even knew Mark Furman until they met him that night at Bundy. And yet the allegation by the defense is that they got together that night, meeting first time, for the very first time, and everybody's covering up and conspiring all of a sudden. Impossible. Not only that, but there are other people involved as well, people we don't even know who they are, according to the defense, who are willing to get involved in this. You realize how many people have to be involved? I mean, it boggles the mind. We don't even know who they're talking about. But that's the contortion you have to go through to believe in this conspiracy theory. That's the contortion you have to go through to step away from the very obvious truth that you can see when you look straight on and clear-eyed at this evidence. If you look at it straight on, you can see the truth. It's very clear and it's very obvious. Mr. Simpson committed these murders, ladies and gentlemen. We don't like it, and it's hard, but it's true.
What the hell is that? That was the
Now, I
stupidest
have
argument I've ever heard.
one more exhibit I'd like to show you. And this exhibit is entitled Unrefuted Evidence. And I think that this will bring home to you the power of the evidence in this case. And the reason that there are two men now helping is because it's a magnetic board and it weighs about a ton.
About a ton, really? I've told you a million times not to exaggerate. I'm sorry. My family is just cracking our family chat was just going off the hook. And my sister and my nieces are just cracking me up. Sorry. I thought there might have been some emergency, but it's just family silliness. There's a huddle. There's
All right,
Skunk Man. There's
you,
Mr.
Ron.
Kardashian back there again. I like how when there's a big lawyer huddle, Kardashian, he just sits back there. He's like, he's not really part of the group. He's like, you just sit back there, Cardi. We don't need you.
This is the unrefuted evidence. This is evidence which has not been contested by any contradictory evidence. That's all that's on this board. Okay? First of all, it goes.
There have been
Sorry, forgive me for interrupting. Any remains on this board?
No, Your Honor.
All right.
No,
any
wait,
remains? Any other? Wait, have there been no super? There's been a couple of super chats towards the beginning, but just a couple. We're nowhere near potato cam.
Yes, but we were not going to get to it just yet. Shall I tell you when? Or
Tell
do you
me
want to
when.
just go ahead and cut?
Tell Mr. Bancroft when.
Okay. First of all, opportunity. Opportunity deals with the time. As we've already established, between 9:36 and
Physical
10:53, the
evidence.
defendant's whereabouts are unaccounted for. No dispute about that. Nobody's contradicting that. Cato Kalin saw the
group.
defendant wearing a dark sweatsuit at 9:36. No contradictory testimony about that. Charles
No,
Cale
no
did
dog
not see
piles.
the Bronco on Rockingham when he walked his dog between 9:30 and 9:45. No witness came forward to dispute that either. The defendant tried to call Paula Barbieri on his cell phone from the Bronco at 10:02, 10:03. There is no contradictory testimony as to that fact. Alan Park did not see the Bronco on Rockingham at 10:22 or 10:30. No witness came forward to contradict his testimony. Alan Alan Park buzzed the intercom at Rockingham at 10:40, at 10:43, and at 10:49. There was no answer. No testimony contradicts that.
So
A white, very light colored Bronco type vehicle observed at Bundy and Dorothy after the murders occurred. That was the testimony of Mr. Heidstra. Testimony that was not
dogs can see
contradicted.
red, green, and blue.
Counsel,
Apparently,
that-
they just get like
Objection has been made. It's for the record. Thank you.
apparently.
Cato Kalin heard the three thumps on his wall
Cato
at 10:51 or 10:52. That testimony is uncontradicted. Let me make one further point about that. An argument has been made to you, ladies and gentlemen, that somehow that those thumps were a signal. That is not what Cato said. That is not what he said. Nor was he questioned as to whether or not the thumps
Well, he also didn't say there was three thumbs like, hello, murderer calling. He didn't say that either.
demonstrated for you were that fast or was it slower? He was indicating to you the force, why his walls shook. Now, how could an earthquake sound like this?
Darmok and Jalad at
Okay,
Tanagra.
he said an earthquake. He said a prowler. Those
And
were
the
the things that
walls
he
fell.
said. He did not say signal. It didn't sound like that to him. That's what he said. Earthquake, prowler. Those were his words, uncontradicted. Alan Park saw the person in dark clothes, 6 foot 200 pounds, walk across the driveway at 10:54, walking into the house. Testimony that is uncontradicted. 2 minutes after the thumps heard by Cato,
Shaka,
uncontradicted
the walls
testimony.
fell.
And at 10:55, when Alan Park got out of his
That's the
limo
full
to
quote.
go and buzz the defendant finally answered. That
That was the
testimony, ladies and gentlemen,
episode
is
ever.
uncontradicted. What that testimony proves is not only that the defendant was not home, but it proves he was not sleeping, and it proves that he lied about it to create the impression, to create an alibi for himself. You don't need to do that unless
Overruled.
you've been doing something you need to have an alibi for, unless you've been doing something that you need to hide.
What? Do we get to see Cato
Shoe prints at
Kalin?
Bundy were from a size 12
Actually, the
Bruno
very
Mali shoe.
first episode
There is no
1 or
contradiction
2
to that
of this
testimony.
of my coverage of
The
the OJ
defendant
was
wears a
Cato's
size 12
testimony.
shoe.
I think it was actually the
That
first
testimony
one, maybe the
is
second one. I don't know.
uncontradicted.
Can't remember. It was a long time ago.
The bloody shoe impression on the Bronco carpet is consistent with the Bruno Mali shoe. That testimony is uncontradicted. That's the one we just showed you. The left glove at Bundy and the right glove at Rockingham are Eris light gloves, size extra large, uncontradicted. Nicole Brown bought 2 pair of Eris light gloves at Bloomingdale's in New York on December 18th, 1990. Testimony that is uncontradicted.
Overruled, counsel.
The defendant wore black and brown Eris light gloves between December 18th, 1990 and June the 12th, 1994. Let me make one further point about that. If the gloves you saw him in these photographs that we showed to you, ladies and gentlemen, were not the ones purchased for him by Nicole Brown, why is it we have no photographs dating before the day she purchased those 2 pair of gloves?
Maybe he bought them after.
Overruled. It's a fair inference from the evidence, counsel.
Who judge?
Which only shows, ladies and gentlemen, and highlights one further point for you. Where are they? If they are not the gloves you have here in court,
Well, you have
Where
to.
are they?
Well, you should have found them. You should have investigated it. The cops
They
should
are
have
here.
investigated. It's not up to the defense to show them.
Overruled, counsel.
Oh, come on. That should have been sustained. That should have been sustained.
the killer dropped blood to the left of the shoe prints at Bundy. That's testimony that is uncontradicted. The defendant had fresh cuts on his left hand during the week of June the 13th, 1994. Uncontradicted. A blood drop on the Bundy trail was typed the same as the defendant's, and this is the conventional serology I was telling you. This is the PGM typing that they did, not the DNA. This is uncontradicted. No one contradicts the accuracy or the integrity of that. No one claims that that's the product of contamination.
Overruled, counsel.
Blood transfers were visible in the defendant's Bronco. Don Thompson, Officer Don Thompson, who was at Rockingham that morning, said he saw blood in the Bronco. Blood drops are on the
Rain
street
on
in
the
the driveway,
scarecrow, blood on
360
the
Rockingham,
plow.
uncontradicted. Blood drops were found in the foyer and in the master bathroom at Rockingham. Testimony that's uncontradicted. It's also uncontradicted that it's his blood.
Now, Ronan Varheit,
Yes, now, Your Honor, thank you.
June 13th being a holiday wouldn't work because June
Okay.
14th is Flag Day. Can't have them right next to each other.
Fibers consistent with the carpet
What's up,
from the
Kardashian?
Bronco found on.
And it looks like OJ's mom is just coming back from her duties as lunch lady. She's still got her food cap on. That is the worst hat she's worn the entire 9-month trial. It just looks like a lunch lady food cap. Hi, what's up, Kardashian? You're like, dang, I wish I had another
On
daughter.
Rockingham glove, uncontradicted. Blue-black cotton fiber found on Ronald Goldman's shirt, the defendant's socks, and the Rockingham glove.
No, she's been wearing some good church going hats, but this ain't it.
Fiber consistent with the carpet from the Bronco found on the dark knit cap at Bundy, uncontradicted. Hairs consistent with the defendant found on the dark knit cap at Bundy, uncontradicted. Hairs consistent with the defendant found on Ron Goldman's shirt, uncontradicted. And in this, I refer to head hair as well as limb hairs.
Overruled.
Limb hair.
Motive, you know, full circle. Spousal abuse, domestic violence against Nicole Brown. Unrefuted. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, this is just what hasn't been contested. Now you add to that the fact of all of the evidence that they've tried to claim was contaminated or planted. I've shown you how it wasn't. Add all of that to this.
George Lucas in the blue
It is
plaid.
truly overwhelming.
No, he doesn't have a big goiter on his neck. That's not George Lucas. He doesn't have a big goiter. That would be
If
the
you would like to take
deceased.
notes on this, I can leave it
father.
up for a little while. It won't go back with you to the jury room because it's only for argument. All right.
All right. I hope to God they're actually finishing in 20 minutes and I didn't miss a video. I really hope I didn't. She said 90 minutes. Now I got to check to make sure I didn't miss a video. Otherwise, we're going to be here a hell of a long
Counsel,
time.
you just approach real quick.
Uh-oh, got to approach.
All right, thank you, counsel. Proceed.
Thank you. I'd like to conclude my remarks to you today, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, good. I didn't
I want to
miss
remind
anything.
you, because we've come full circle. I've been with you such a long time. It's been so long since we've actually had a chance to both talk. And I look forward to the time that we can again. I wanted to remind you back to the time of jury selection when we first asked questions of you as a group in order to select 12 of you to sit as jurors. And that was on, I think, November 2nd, 1994. You're all together here and we were actually able to both talk and exchange. I think it was even before the alternate jurors were selected. And we asked some of you as individuals what you would expect of us as public prosecutors if we were assigned to prosecute a case where, heaven forbid, a loved one of yours had been murdered, a son, a sister, a father, a brother. And imagine
No.
that it's you sitting in the audience where the victims' families sit today.
No.
What would you expect of us? What would you want? Your answers were that you expected us to be fair, to be vigorous in our prosecution of the case, to be ethical. We've done everything in our power to be all of those things, ladies and gentlemen, everything. And if you recall, we as representatives of the community expected of you, and we talked about what we wanted, what we would ask of you. And if you remember, we expected you to use your common sense, to be open-minded, to be reasonable, and to be fair, and to have the moral courage to be just. And if you will think back to that time of jury selection when all of you were first together, you will remember that we talked about the United States Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. It's been so long, I wonder if you remember that.
Yeah, you also talked about DNA being like what they did in the just newly released Jurassic Park movie. Yeah, for those of you that didn't see the opening statements a year and a half ago, that's literally what she did. She was describing how DNA works by referring to Jurassic Park.
The highest court in the land. And we asked if you knew what was inscribed on the facade of the Supreme Court building up above the steps, up above the pillars. If you think back, we told you what was written above those marble pillars. Equal justice under the law. We talked about what that meant, equal justice under the law. You may recall that means the law is to be applied equally to all persons in this country, regardless of whether one is
Including the
rich or
presumption
poor,
of innocence, right?
or race or creed or color, famous or otherwise. Not even the president of the United States is above the law. You all agreed with that.
Well,
We asked you if you had the courage to be just.
depends.
To a person, each of you said yes. Some individually, some responded as a group. And we asked you, you may recall, what equal justice under the law meant to you. And you replied, that is the way it should definitely be.
That is the
And
way.
that's right. That is the way it should definitely be. But you see, equal justice under the law is an ideal. It's an abstract principle. And it takes you to make this principle a reality. Only you can make this ideal real. I think that with all you've already gone through, you've shown yourself to be people of remarkable integrity, strength, courage, and patience. People who will face the hard questions. And this is one of them. I think it's been hard for all of us to be here and to listen to all of the
Yes,
evidence.
it has.
In this case, evidence that proves Mr. Simpson is guilty, because none of us wanted to believe it. We all wanted to believe that our image of him was right. And we all know that
I
we
don't think you
never
did,
knew
Marcia.
him exactly, but we kind of felt like we did.
I don't think so,
And-
Marcia.
It's really kind of hard to have to believe that the man we saw in the movies and the commercials could do this. But he did. And the fact that he did doesn't mean he wasn't a great football player. It doesn't mean he never did a good thing in his life. Nothing takes that away. That's still here. It'll always be here. But so will the fact that he committed these murders. And even though it's a hard thing, still it cannot mean that you let a guilty person go free. That someone who commits murder is not held accountable for it. He had strength and he had weaknesses. And it's his weakness that brought us here today. And it's his weakness, that's why we're here, and Ron and Nicole are not. And defense would say no motive. No motive. It's one of the oldest motives ever known, ladies and gentlemen. Anger, fear of abandonment, jealousy, loss of control of Nicole and of himself. Usually I feel like I'm the only one left to speak for the victims, but in this case, Ron and Nicole, they're speaking to you. They're speaking to you. And they're telling you who murdered them. Nicole started before she even died. Remember back in 1989, she cried to Detective Edwards, "He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me." The children were there. 1990, she made a safe deposit box, put photographs of her beaten face and her haunted look in a safe deposit box along with a will. She was only 30 years old. How many 30-year-olds you know do that? A will, a safe deposit box? It's like writing, "In the event of my death." She knew.
Literally, oh, come on.
He's going to kill me.
Come on. Everybody who is in their 30s or 30 and has children should have a will, first of all. If you're the ex-wife, a fairly well-to-do, well-off ex-wife of an NFL superstar with kids, you better damn well have a will. Like, everybody should have a will anyway. But come on. That was a dumb argument. They're probably all going, we all got wills.
Kill me. 1993.
And literally, that's what a will is. Literally, a will is like saying, in case of my death, do this. That's what a will is, Marcia. That was a stupid argument.
The 911 tape. Children were there. He was screaming, she was crying, and she was frightened. I think the thing that perhaps
A willy
was so chilling about her voice is that sound of resignation.
The sound of
There was a resignation to it, inevitability. She knew she was going to die. And Ron, he speaks for you. In struggling so valiantly,
he speaks.
he
to you
forced his
through the
murderer to leave the
Ouija
evidence
board.
behind that you might not ordinarily have found. And they both are telling you who did it with their hair, their clothes, their bodies, their blood. They tell you he did it. He did it.
Weapon for the future.
Mr. Simpson, Orenthal Simpson. He did it. They told you in the only way they can. Will you hear them? Or will you ignore their plea for justice? Or as Nicole said to Detective Edwards, you never do anything about him. Will you? I want to play something for you, ladies and gentlemen. It puts it all together.
Was this the montage they were talking about where they weren't allowed to use the how did they decide?
This is, thank you. This is a compilation of the 1989 tape.
Okay, yeah, she wanted to play this montage of pictures of her with bruises all over, with her bruises against the background of all of the 911 calls. And the defense objected on the grounds that the pictures came from completely different years than the 911 calls, and there were several 911 calls. And they just wanted to put it all together to make it look like it was one 911 call and it was related to the pictures they were showing. And the judge ruled that she had to explain that the pictures are from different years and there's different 911 calls.
911 call, the 1993 911 call, photographs from 1989 beating, and the photographs from her safe deposit box, and the photographs from Rockingham and Bundy.
Oh,
Sarah McLachlan over the video with Sally Struthers going, for just 19 cents a day.
Can you get someone over here now to 325 Gretna Green? He's back. Please. Okay, what does he look like? He's OJ Simpson. I think you know his record. Did you just send somebody over here? What is he doing there? He's drove up again. Drove over? Wait a minute, what kind of car is he in? He's in a white Bronco. First of all, he broke the back door down to get in. Wait a minute, what's your name? Nicole Simpson. Okay, is he the sportscaster or whatever? Yeah. Okay, wait a minute, we're telling the police. What is he doing? Is he threatening you? He's looking going nuts. Has he threatened you in any way, or is he just harassing you? You're going to hear him in a minute. He's about to come in again.
I don't have to say anything else. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the people of the state of California, because we have proven beyond a reasonable doubt, far beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant committed these murders, we ask you to find the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree of Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown.
This is such blatant acting on her part. This attempt to show compassion and care and concern. Like her eyes are just dead. Her eyes are just dead while she's doing this. It looks so fake and put on.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, counsel. Let me see counsel to sidebar with the court reporter, please.
That would be all counsel
ladies
except for
and
you,
gentlemen, thank you for your
Kardashian.
patience. I have just a few final instructions that I need to give
Woo!
to you before you start your deliberations on this matter. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not intended by anything that I have said or done, or by any questions that I may have asked, or by any of the rulings that I have made in your presence, to intimate or suggest what you should find to be the facts, or that I believe or disbelieve any of the witnesses. If anything that I have done during the course of this trial or said has seemed to so indicate to you, you will disregard it and form your own.
I do like what he's doing here. I do like this, and I think would be beneficial if a lot more judges did that. This very adamant statement to the jury that anything he said has nothing to do with it, and they should disregard anything that he has said that may make them think guilt or innocence one way or the other. I think a lot of trials would benefit from doing what Ito's doing here.
In conclusion, the instructions which I have given to you will be made available in written form for your deliberations. They must not be defaced or written upon in any way. You will find that the instructions may be typed, printed, or handwritten. Portions may have been added or deleted. You must disregard any deleted part of an instruction and not speculate as to what it was or as to the reason for its deletion. You are not to be concerned with the reasons for any modifications. Every part of the text of an instruction, whether it is typed, printed, or handwritten, is of equal importance. You are to be governed only by the instruction in its final wording. The people and the defendant are entitled to the individual opinion of each juror. Each of you must consider the evidence for the purpose of reaching a verdict if you can do so. Each of you must decide the case for yourself, but should do so only after discussing the evidence and the instructions with the other jurors. Do not hesitate to change an opinion if you are convinced it is wrong. However, do not decide any question in a particular way because a majority of the jurors, or any of them, favor such a decision. Do not decide any issue in this case by chance, such as the drawing of lots, or by any other chance determination. The attitude and conduct of jurors at all times are very important. It is rarely helpful for a juror at the beginning of deliberations to express an emphatic opinion on the case or to announce a determination to stand for a certain verdict. When one does that at the outset, a sense of pride may be aroused, and one may hesitate to change a position even if it is shown to be wrong. Remember that you are not partisans or advocates in this matter. You are the impartial judges of the facts. In your deliberations, do not discuss or consider the subject of penalty or punishment. That subject must not in any way affect your verdict. Do not disclose to anyone outside the jury, not even to me or to any member of my staff, either orally or in writing, how you may be divided numerically in your balloting as to any issue unless I specifically direct otherwise. You have been given notebooks and pencils. You are to leave them in your seat in the jury room when you leave each day and at each recess.
Oh,
You will be able to take
there is
them
no
into the
day.
jury room for your deliberations. You are reminded that notes are only an aid to memory and should not take precedence over independent recollection. A juror who does not take notes should rely upon his or her independent recollection of the evidence and not be influenced by the fact that other jurors do take notes. Notes are for the note taker's own personal use in refreshing his or her recollection of the evidence. Finally, should any discrepancy exist between a juror's recollection of the evidence and his or her notes, he or she may request that the court reporter read back the relevant proceedings, and the trial transcript must prevail over any notes. In this case, there are 3 possible verdicts as to each count. These various possible verdicts are set forth in the forms of verdict which you will receive. Only one of the possible verdicts may be returned by you as to any particular count. If you all have agreed upon one verdict as to a particular count, the corresponding form is the only verdict form to be signed as to that count. The other forms are to be left unsigned. During the periods of recess, you must not discuss with anyone
There won't be any
subject
recesses,
connected with
don't
this
worry.
trial, and you must not deliberate further upon the case until all 12 of you are together and reassembled in the jury room. Once the clerk or the bailiff has been notified that the jury is reassembled, you may continue your deliberations. During the course of their arguments, counsels for both sides argued that, quote, "the world is watching," unquote. You are reminded that you must not be influenced by mere sentiment, conjecture, sympathy, passion, prejudice, public opinion, or public feeling. Both the prosecution and the defendant have a right to expect that you will conscientiously consider and weigh all the evidence, apply the law as I have instructed you, and reach a just verdict regardless of the consequences. You shall now retire and select one of your number to act as foreperson. He or she will preside over your deliberations. In order to reach verdicts, all 12 jurors must agree as to the decision and as to any finding you have been instructed to include in your verdict. As soon as all of you have agreed upon a verdict, so that when polled, each may state truthfully that the verdicts express his or her vote, have them dated and signed by your foreperson, and then return with them to this courtroom. You are to return to the clerk any unsigned verdict forms. Mrs. Robertson, are you prepared to swear the bailiff? All right, Sergeant Smith.
solemnly swear that you will take charge of the jury and keep them together, that you will not speak to them yourself, nor allow anyone else to speak to them on matters connected with this case, except by order of this court, and when they have agreed upon a verdict, you will return them into the court, so help you God. And further, you solemnly swear that you will take charge of the alternate jurors and keep them apart from the jury while they are deliberating on the cause, until otherwise instructed by the court, so help you God.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that you step into the jury room to proceed with your election of a foreperson. As soon as you have done that, would you notify the bailiffs by pressing on our buzzer 3 times here that you've reached a determination as to the foreperson? And then I'll bring you out for the closing admonitions, and then we'll conclude the session for the day. In fact, I think what I will do is give them the closing admonition at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, as I've indicated to you, you are not to discuss the case while you are away from the jury room. Your jury deliberations may take place only while all 12 of you are assembled in the jury room. In other words, when you go back to the hotel, when we conclude for the day, and during the course of any recesses, you may not discuss amongst yourselves the facts and circumstances of the case. You may not conduct any deliberations while you're at the hotel or anywhere in between. All right? And I'll ask the 12 jurors to step back into the jury room at this time, and we'll have the bailiffs take charge of the 2 alternates. All right, I need to see counsel, excuse me, to ask counsel about my research attorneys advise me that there is case law that alternate jurors are to be kept separate from sequestered jurors during the part of their deliberations, which includes at the hotel, according to the case law that I've read. Now, they've been admonished not to conduct any deliberations while they are away from the jury room here in the courthouse, and I'll be issuing shortly a schedule of jury deliberations. What are your thoughts as far as keeping the 2 alternates separate?
Regarding that, I think you've admonished them. The defense has absolutely no objection to the alternates being able to be with the other jurors during the time they're at the hotels. They're not going to deliberate. They've been together all this time, and I think that's appropriate. We have no objection to that, Your Honor. I think it's appropriate. We so stipulate.
I gotta see, I feel so sad for them. You're gonna have 2 of them separate from everybody else and all their friends. It's hard enough where they're living. I can't object to them being together after all they've been through. So.
All right. They're being
stipulations required with stipulation.
It doesn't matter.
All right. That's
it really doesn't
the
matter.
humane thing to do.
Yeah.
All right. It'll be bad enough keeping them separate in another room during this time in any event. All right, counsel, I'm going to direct counsel to be available within 1 hour's phone call within 1 hour of receiving a call from Mrs. Robertson, the clerk, to be available with regards to questions and jury readback. And I understand that both sides wish to be present during any readback, and the defendant wishes to be present. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. That is, Mr. Carl Douglas will be our designee for all readbacks. Mr. Simpson would like to be present for all such readbacks, if the court pleases. There's one other request I have, Your Honor, with regard to verdict when you get to that point. Should I do that now?
All right. Ms. Clark, any problem with designating one individual on your team to be the person to respond within 1 hour to Mrs. Robertson's call?
Yes, I mean, no, no, it's all right with the court if we can alternate. I don't want to have any one person always be up, but if
Just
you can
as long
notify-
as long as I have somebody here in 1 hour. All right. Mr. Cochran, you had a question regarding the
Yes, the
verdicts.
court, as the court knows, this is a part of the case where one does not know how long it will take. And
I
this has been
do.
a very long trial. And,
I know how long it'll take.
Because counsel have been tied up in this matter for some time. Maybe they have a verdict already and we can go on. Maybe that's, maybe that's it.
It's all funny unless you happen to be the victim's family. It's all funny unless you're part of them. Let's see. There was a question, which from Poodle Lady, what lawyer is Kim's dad? Back here, this lady in the fuchsia. I guess that would be fuchsia, isn't it? I don't know. Is it? What color would you call that? I guess. I don't know if it looks fuchsia to me. Anyway, sitting just to the right of the blonde lady in the purpley burgundy fuchsia color with the skunk stripe in his hair right back here. You can't see, can you? Let's see if we can do this. See, the cursor's here on his shoulder, goes straight back here. Dude back here with the skunk stripe in his hair. That is Robert Kardashian, father to at least 3 of the 4 Kardashians. In case you were wondering.
We'll be moot.
It's a good sign that they can agree that quickly on a 4-person, but since
that is a good
we have
sign.
quiet, please.
The point I was going to indicate to the court was whether or not, may not be necessary, whether or not we can have, the court has indicated that they'll be deliberating, I believe, on some weekends, and that could we have a 24-hour window from the time that the court gets the verdict to the time that all counsel want to be present. If
Duncan Idaho gets his one
My
legal vice
concern, counsel,
membership.
is that we have a
Thank you so
sequestered
much.
jury, and to keep them any longer than is necessary after they deliver a verdict would be very difficult.
I understand that.
I'm going to ask
If you got the
counsel to be
legal vice's
available
membership,
within
give
4
Duncan Idaho
hours of being
thanks.
notified.
The court, because some of us may be out of time, the court consider that, making that 6 hours possibly.
Let's say 4 hours, and let's see where you are when it happens. Let's not create on any windows that are too wide, keeping in mind that once this jury reaches a verdict, I suspect they'll want to go home.
I would think so. We'll see. All right.
All right. That'll give all parties the opportune time, enough time to get their the interested parties together.
The running theory is Chloe's dad may be OJ. That's the running rumor.
To assemble here at the courthouse.
If
All
you
right,
can
Ms.
call it a
Clark,
rumor.
Mr. Cochran, is there anything else we need to take up?
One question, point of information. If the verdict is at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I presume that the court would then go over more than likely to the next day or on Saturday.
I'll issue a deliberation
Y'all just
schedule
relax.
and
Don't
an
worry about
anticipated
it.
schedule of
We're
returning
coming
verdicts
right back.
while this jury deliberates. I am contemplating, as you know, the jury asked for permission to deliberate on Saturdays, as they're willing to. They told me that they.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the best chance we're gonna get, I think. Let's back up here a little bit. Let's back it on up just a little bit.
Parties the opportune time, enough time to get their the interested parties together and to assemble here at the
Well,
courthouse.
you know it, KT.
All right, Ms. Clark, Mr. Cochran, is there anything else we need to take up?
One question, point of information. If the verdict is at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I presume that the court would.
All right. This may be the last time we get this as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at a Donald Sutherland sighting. It's Donald Sutherland right back here, just next to Johnny Cochran. Those of you with earbuds, take warning. This is your earbud warning. We have a body snatcher. We have a Donald Sutherland body snatcher clip incoming. 3, 2, 1. You were warned. There's our body snatcher right there.
Then go over more than likely to the next day or on Saturday.
I'll issue a deliberation schedule and an anticipated schedule of returning verdicts while this jury deliberates. I am contemplating, as you know, the jury asked for permission to deliberate on Saturdays. As they're willing to, they told me that they were in their questionnaires that since they're sequestered, they might as well work on Saturday. If a verdict is returned on a Saturday, it will probably be held until Monday, simply because of the logistical problems of opening the courthouse over the weekend to take a verdict. All right, so you should anticipate that. Anything else? All right, counsel, thank you very much. We'll be in recess. In fact, I'll see counsel in chambers without the.
All right, people. All right, that is the end of that. That's the end of the arguments. Let's bring on up the full screen here. There we go. All right, let's talk about a few things before we get into the relatively short judgment. The verdict. Big Al says Marcia was the district attorney at the time, wasn't she? The district attorney was Gil Garcetti, and one of the things, afterwards he said that one of the things that still haunts him about this trial is letting Marcia Clark do it. He was not he made the decision to give Marcia Clark the case, but he regretted it afterwards. He said that decision still haunts him today. Of course, when he said that, it was years ago, but you get the idea. So yeah, Gil Garcetti was the district attorney at the time. Jude Curio says, Jeff, what does MST3K have to do with OJ? This is the overlay we just put on there because we sort of talk along. It's sort of like our little MST3K stream where we relax, we kick back, we talk with chat talks with me, and we sort of have snarky comments a la MST3K. It's something we just started doing a few months ago, just throwing up the MST3K bots and Joel. So yeah, that's why we've got that up there. Nothing big. And Jem, how long did they take? Well, there's a few things we've mentioned a few things about this. First of all, the jury. This is the longest sequestered jury in U.S. history. The jurors were sequestered in a hotel for 265 days, for 9 months. They were sequestered in a hotel away from husbands, wives, children, jobs, movies, TV. They got limited TV, limited movies. They went on a couple field trips, but they were in a hotel for 265 days. That's a long time. And they estimate that it cost about $2 million to sequester the jury for 9 months. So that cost them $2 million. And again, the argument that people make is, OJ Simpson, he bought that, he had the money and he had the lawyer so he could buy the verdict. No, what happens is when you are a defendant in a criminal case, you are up against the prosecution, who, for all intents and purposes, have an unlimited budget. They have unlimited resources they can throw at you. They have any number of witnesses they can bring in for free. Any number of state witnesses in official positions that they can bring in for free. they estimate that in addition to the $2 million for sequestering the jury, that the prosecution cost approximately $9 million. The prosecution cost approximately $9 million for the county of Los Angeles, plus the jury sequestration. So say 11 million. They figure that OJ's total legal bill was somewhere around $6 million. So the prosecution spent essentially $3 million more dollars, 1/3 more than OJ Simpson did. So what money does, what having a fuck ton of money does, is it allows you to do your best to level the playing field against the state with essentially unlimited resources. So that I always get a little bit prickly when people say, yeah, if you have enough money, you can buy a not guilty verdict. No, you level the playing field and you get to bring people with as much expertise or more expertise than the state has. And the vast majority of defendants don't have the resources. They have to rely on overworked and frighteningly underpaid public defenders who, if it's like a misdemeanor case or something, like they can have 20, 30, and sometimes 40 cases a day to deal with. So yeah, money doesn't buy you not guilty verdicts. It might level the playing field a little bit. So yeah, that's something to note. And how long did the deliberations take? They did do a readback, and I'm not going to show you the readback of the evidence. They had readbacks for one witness, which took about an hour. But the actual deliberation time for the jury was about 3.5 hours, which just means they didn't give a shit about looking through the evidence or doing anything that Marcia Clark asked them to do. That 3 hours to come to a unanimous verdict in this case, in a case like this, is extremely quick. That's about it was about 3 hours for the Hannah Gutierrez verdict, and that was essentially fairly cut and dried, and it was a much smaller case than this. But yeah, they were sequestered for 265 days for 9 months, and it took them 3.5 hours to come back with a unanimous not guilty verdict. Well, all right, that kind of answers, I guess, all the questions about that we had. We had the Duncan Idaho gifted membership, and where are we at here? Darden didn't just make a mistake. We're talking about the glove. Darden just didn't make a mistake. He got suckered by F. Lee Bailey. He actually got suckered by Johnny Cochran. Because Johnny Cochran made a big deal about it. Oh, if you don't have him put on the glove, we're gonna have him put on the glove. We're gonna do it. Yeah, we're gonna put on the glove. And he's like, no way, man. I'm gonna do it first. I'm gonna put on the glove. I'm gonna have him put on the glove. He totally Jedi mind. It was Johnny Cochran totally Jedi mind trick Darden into having OJ put on the glove. It was just a beautiful psychological takedown. Was the OJ the first reality TV show? Again, the first big televised trial that I'm aware of was the Menendez trial about 4 years before this, and then this one. But this was the case that made court TV. This is the one that put them on the map and focused them on trial coverage. All right, let's look at the verdict, shall we? The real world probably was, I guess, like as from what we understand reality TV to be, the real world may have been it. Share screen. And the verdict. Embiggened. It was embiggened. No, wait, what? Right. Well, how is this bigger? It's not bigger. There we go. All right, everybody. Let's see how did the poll turn out, by the way. Let's look at the poll. We haven't looked at the poll here for a bit. Wait, where did my poll screen go? Ah, there it is. It's buried. It's buried back behind my vast array of open windows. Okay. OJ, 22% of you said OJ was just flat out not guilty. 28% of you say he was absolutely guilty and he was proven guilty. And 50% of you, exactly half of you, 1 in 2 of you, said that he was guilty but wasn't proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I waffle back and forth, but and it's not really evidence-based. It's more just a gut instinct that I think he was there. I think maybe he watched it. I think he should have been found guilty. But I don't think in any way, shape, or form the jury was convinced of his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think the prosecution proved beyond a reasonable doubt at all. There was far too many bad things happening, which eventually led to Gil Garcetti's downfall. There was all of these problems with the OJ Simpson trial, and then not long after this, the whole Rampart Division scandal broke, and it was revealed to the public the absolute massive amount of police corruption that was going on in the Rampart Division there in Los Angeles, which is probably why he lost the election in 2000 and was no longer the district attorney for Los Angeles. And there's a lot of theories saying it was OJ's grown son. I really haven't looked too deeply into that theory. I don't know why. I just never really looked deeply into it other than just to hear, oh, he did it. Yeah, all right, possible. Right, well. His behavior after trial is not the best. It's really, really not a good idea to publish a book called If I Had Done It, or If I Did It. What I think it was called If I Did It, where he lays out how he would have done it if he had actually done it. That was not the smartest thing to do. And then say, oh, I'm gonna spend the rest of my life searching for the real killers, which apparently be believed to be on golf courses in Florida. But yeah. All right, so let's do this. The verdict in the OJ Simpson trial, bringing our 1.5-year extravaganza to a close.
All right, back on the record in the Simpson matter. Mr. Simpson is again present before the court with his counsel, Mr. Shapiro, Mr. Cochran, Mr. Kardashian, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Blazier. People represented by Ms. Clark, Mr. Darden, and Mr. Hodgman. The jury is not present. Good morning, counsel. Good morning. All right, the record should reflect that earlier this morning at 9 o'clock, the court met informally with counsel here in the courtroom because there are too many lawyers to go into chambers this morning for the purposes of discussing notifications to the jurors regarding their rights of privacy and the interest of the news media to interview them or speak to them following the delivery of the verdict in court here today.
See you tomorrow, RL.
The court distributed to the parties copies of the questionnaire that has been distributed to the jurors, and also the notice to them regarding confidentiality under 237 of the Code of Civil Procedure. And those 2 questionnaires have been returned by the jurors. They have uniformly indicated their desire that their private information will remain confidential. They have also indicated to the court unanimously a desire not to speak to the attorneys after the conclusion of the trial, and not to speak with the news media either. All right, counsel, is there anything else we need to take up before I invite the jurors to join us? All right, Deputy Trower, let's have the jurors, please.
All right, and while he's doing that, Duncan Ida says, small quibble with your poll. Guilty but not proven guilty just means not guilty. Yeah, but we're asking people, the poll is, what do you think about OJ. Oh, you think he was guilty and he was proven guilty. There's a very limited number of characters you can use for these polls. So you couldn't say guilty and proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Not guilty and guilty, but wasn't proven beyond a reasonable doubt. We're not talking about what it means. We're just talking about what you think, how you think this trial turned out. That he was proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. He wasn't proven. He wasn't proven. He's just not guilty, or he was guilty, but the prosecution screwed up and didn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's where there's really no quibble there. But I will take your $10 quibble fee. Thank you very much. My family's still going off on chat.
And the record should reflect that we have now been rejoined
All
by all
right.
the members of our jury panel and our alternates. Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Mrs. Robertson, would you, do you have the envelope with the sealed verdict forms, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you give those to Deputy Trower? And would you return those to our four-person juror number one?
It's got to be a very,
All right, Madam Foreperson, would you please
nervous
open the
man.
envelope and check the condition of the verdict forms?
And while he's doing this, everybody hit that like button. Why not? This is interesting. We've got 233 people here. This is officially the largest OJ following we've ever had, and it's the very last episode. It's usually well into the low mid hundreds. 233 it was the maximum I think we've ever had by a good margin. I think 210 or something was probably the next closest. And that was a week or so ago. But stay tuned. Next week, new trial. I'll talk about that in a minute. He's reading the verdict to himself, making sure everything's in order. Clerk's going over it. OJ's shitting himself. Johnny Cochran's got a super cool tie on.
All right, Madam Foreperson, you've had the opportunity to review the verdict forms.
Yes.
Are they the same forms that you signed, and are they in order?
Yes, they are.
All right, would you hand those, please, to Deputy Trevor? And you have signed and dated those verdict forms indicating the jury's verdict?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Hey, what's up? What's up, Rob? What's up, Daddy K? They let him sit at the big guy's table. They let him sit at the adult table for Thanksgiving.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and of the jury, I'm going to ask that you carefully listen to the verdicts as they are being read by the clerk, Mrs. Robertson.
Where have you gone,
As
Mrs. Robertson?
after the verdicts have been read, you will be asked if these are your verdicts. And I would caution the audience during the course of the reading of these verdicts to remain calm, and that if there is any disruption during the reading of the verdicts, the bailiffs will have the obligation to remove any persons disrupting these proceedings. All right, Mrs. Robertson.
Now, to let you know, I'm sure those of you that are old enough to remember the verdict, this is kind of like our generation's Kennedy assassination. I think everybody, I'll say 10 years plus or minus me, so say 44 to 64, can probably tell you where they were and what they were doing at the time the verdict was handed down. He said it was during my third year of law school. And when they announced that a verdict had been reached, they brought in everybody in the law school into the moot courtroom in the auditorium. And they brought in a bunch of TVs. There was all of the local news stations were there. And just to get all the law students, all the law professors and the law students' reactions to the OJ trial. And I don't know of anyone else in my law school that followed this as closely as I did. It really, really hurt my grades because I was watching this much more than I was doing homework or paying attention in class. I skipped a ton of classes, especially during the fung days. Didn't do much other than watch this, and I recorded everything, so I would watch it early in the morning before school. I would watch it when I wasn't in class, and then I would watch the tapes when I got home from school. Pretty much watched every minute of it. I don't remember missing any of it. So when they had all the cameras in, they announced the verdict. Everybody was shocked. There was a lot of murmurings and gasping going on. I was thrilled because I thought it was absolutely the correct verdict given the way the evidence was presented. And so everyone else is going, and I'm going, yes. And suddenly, of course, I find myself interviewed on the local news. And that's what I said. I said, he may have had something to do with it. He may have been there, but I think the prosecution did a horrible job. Anybody in this room, even first year law students, probably could have done a better job prosecuting the case than they did. It was the prosecution's case to lose, and they did it by putting on Dennis Fung, by putting on Mark Furman, destroying their case. The glove was a disaster, and there's no way that they proved that case beyond a reasonable doubt. And of course, my father was humiliated and mortified that I made the news for such a thing. But yeah, that was my where was I and what I was doing when the OJ verdict came down. Weirdly, also like during the LA riots, during the Rodney King verdict, I remember where I was for that too. I was actually in the office of Agence France Presse in Seoul. Weirdly enough, I was in a World Press Organization office when the Rodney King verdict came down. Because I was talking to the bureau chief from Agence France Presse, and they announced the verdict, and like, oh wow, that was odd that they would be found not guilty of beating the living shit out of a guy. And we thought, oh, that's kind of weird. And then suddenly, about 30 minutes later, the room went totally quiet. And he's like, Los Angeles is on fire. And I'm like, what? And then we just turned on the TVs and watched the roof Koreans go at it. That was pretty cool.
All right, Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury? Mrs. Robertson.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information. Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the State of California versus Orenthal James Simpson. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Ronald Goldman, a human being, as charged in.
And speaking of wrestlers, we have Officer Roddy Piper there in the background.
Count 2 of the information. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, further find the special circumstance that the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, has in this case.
That's Ron Goldman's mother and father, in case you didn't know. It's his mother and the father there.
It's been convicted of at least one crime of murder of the first degree and one or more crimes of murder of the first or second degree to be not true. Signed this second day of October 1995, Juror 230. Ladies and gentlemen.
That's Nicole Brown's sister back there. Who's this pimp daddy girl back there? Don't know who's wearing the pimp hat back there, but that's Denise, Nicole's sister right there.
of the jury. Is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all.
All right, counsel, Mr. Simpson, would you be seated, please? Let's have it quiet in the courtroom, please. All right, Mrs. Robertson, would you please poll the jurors?
Poll the jury. Juror number 1, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 2, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 3, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 4, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 5, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 6, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 7, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 8, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 9, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 10, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 11, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 12, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Okay, count 2. Juror number 1 is to count 2. Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 2 is to count 2. Is this your verdict? Juror number 3 is to count 2. Is this your verdict? Juror number 4 is to count 2. Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 5 is to count 2. Is this your verdict? Juror number 6 is to count 2. Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 7 is to count 2. Is this your verdict? Juror number 8 is to count 2. Is this your verdict? Juror number 9 is to count 2. Is this your verdict? Juror number 10 is to count 2. Is this?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's his sister. I thought usually that's where wifey was sitting. Yeah, that's his sister, Nicole's Ron Goldman's sister.
Your verdict. Juror number 11 is to count 2. Is this your verdict? Juror number 12 is to count 2. Is this your verdict?
All right, the clerk is directed to record the verdicts as read.
They
Parties
swapped
agree to
seats.
waive reading of the verdicts as recorded. Mr. Cochran, do you waive
That's his adult daughters there and mom.
reading of the verdicts as recorded?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Clark.
There's his son who may or may not have been the perpetrator, depending if you want to believe that particular theory.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to at this time take this opportunity to publicly thank you for the service that you've given to us. The burdens that we've placed upon you were enormous, and words can't begin to express the debt that we owe to you for the time and patience and exertion that you've given to us during the course of this case. I will have an opportunity to meet with you privately later, and I'll give you my private comments when we have a chance to meet. I want to caution you at this time that there is, as you know, intense media interest in this case. The news media will probably seek you out at your home or at your place of business. And I would implore that the news media act responsibly to avoid harassing you or identifying you without your consent or otherwise causing you concern. Whether you wish to cooperate with the news media is, of course, entirely up to you. However, I must warn you to expect the worst as far as that is concerned. We want to, I know I share with you in expressing our thanks to the bailiffs from the Sheriff's Department, to our court reporters, Ms. Moxham and Ms. Olson, to the research attorney, John Byrne, who's assisted us, our Pepperdine law clerks, Mr. Golub and Ms. Carswell, our media liaison, Jerry Ann Hazlett and her staff, and of course, the jury commissioner, Gloria Gomez, and her staff. All right, counsel, is there anything we need to take up before we excuse the jurors, Mr. Cochran?
Dominic Dunn, he was a reporter, huge supporter of the Goldman family. Dominic Dunn was. He's absolutely stunned, and of course, Mr. Goldman looks completely devastated. He's just in shock. Robert Kardashian sort of did look like he was a bit surprised that was the verdict. I will admit that. All
right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I am now going to excuse you from further service on this case. As you know, this does absolve you from your vows of silence. You may take with you your juror notebooks as you have requested and we'll be chatting with you shortly. All right. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all later. All right. Everybody have a seat, please. All right, Ms. Clark, Mr. Cochran, anything else we need to take up? Ms. Clark? All right, the defendant having been acquitted of both charges, he is ordered transported to an appropriate sheriff's facility and released forthwith. All right, we'll stand in recess.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the OJ Simpson trial coverage here on Legal Vices, my little old channel. It's kind of a bittersweet moment. We've been doing this for just about a year and a half, and it's over. I'm getting all emotional now. We're going to be picking up next week with a new trial. Next Thursday is the beginning of a new trial, a trial that I have not watched, but it falls within the category of legendary trials. So this is I'm not even going to research the verdict because I want to watch this from beginning to end. I'm sure someone will spoil it before then, but I hope not. I hope nobody will say, oh yeah, I remember that case. This was the outcome. I don't expect to get through the whole trial without learning the verdict, but I'm not gonna look for it for myself. It might accidentally come up, but it's a trial of a man who I believe it was in his 70s at the time. He killed his two younger brothers and his mother in what is described as a witchcraft ritualistic killing. So we'll watch. It's a short trial. I think it was about a 3-week trial. So we'll cover it same way we did here, but this will be gavel to gavel, beginning to end, and we'll see how it plays out. Again, it'll probably take us another year to get through it. So there we go. That's what's up. Can we do OJ's Las Vegas theft stuff? No, I don't think that would fall within the category of an awesome trial. That was just sad. That was just a sad, miserable thing. It was a stupid thing to do. It's too bad Chandler couldn't be here for the end. Yes, she's in the midst of preparing for her LSAT exam. So I think she's taking that in a few weeks. So she's in the final countdown to that. Duncan Ida with a final OJ super chat, perhaps $5. It makes me very angry when it seems that someone clearly did it and should be found guilty, but for the incompetence of prosecution, inexcusable. I think this was the prosecution's case to lose, and they did it. Like I said, the fact that this one case resulted in not just Los Angeles wide, but countrywide sweeping reforms of how police evidence is collected. For example, I mean, one of the big things that came out of this was one pair of gloves per piece of evidence, one swab per piece of evidence. So literally they would wear the same gloves. You put their hands in the dirt. We saw Ms. Mazzola doing that. She was wearing her evidence collecting gloves. She's wiping her gloves on her pants. She's putting her hand in the dirt. She's collecting evidence. And they were using the same swab to collect 3 or 4 different blood samples, things like that. Just massive sweeping reforms of evidence collection and evidence handling. That's how bad this trial was. It was a mess from beginning to end for the prosecution. The defense had nothing but reasonable doubt to play with. All right, folks. Legendary Racing. Good to see you, Legendary Racing. Yeah. Between the OJ Simpson trial and motorcycle cruising, I'm starting to doubt Vices went to law school at all. I actually had a professor thinking much that same thing. It was my North American Free Trade Agreement class professor. Professor Porras was her name. She was from Costa Rica. I had that for spring semester. Like I said, the first part when this was coming to an end, she was one of my classes because I had her class and then a few hour break, and I lived really close to the law school. It was just down the hill from the law school, so when I would go to her class. I would go to class, and I would watch some of the tapes in the morning, go to class, then I'd go back to my house, watch it for a few hours, then go back for my afternoon classes. But dang, when it's a beautiful May day and there's golf to be played, there's motorcycles to be ridden up the canyon, up in the beautiful Rocky Mountains, when there's a murder trial going on like this, I skipped a lot of class, and her class most of all. I remember it was getting close to finals and I was starting to get worried, and I went back to class, and when I came in the door, she looked at me and she said, "I thought you dropped this class." Nope, didn't drop the class. And well, see, this is why you're not far off with that take, because to this day, 30 years later, well, I guess about 30 years, 28 years since graduation, I have this recurring nightmare that I go to take a final exam. I have this dream at least once a year, sometimes a couple times a year, where I go to take a final exam. And it was one of these classes, and there's a lot of law school classes like that, where literally your entire grade, 100% of your grade is the final exam. And this was one of those classes that I was going to take a test, and they're very, very secure tests. You have to go in, there's a list of class people, you show your ID, you get issued your serial numbered test booklet, and you turn it in and stuff like that. And I was going, in my dream, I'm going down the list of people in the class, and I realized that I'm not on the list. And then it hits me that I have been in the wrong class the entire semester, so I'm not eligible to take the test for that class. And then the secondary realization is that I don't know what class I'm supposed to be in, so I can't take the test for that class. And it's this nightmare that just keeps coming back. And I still have no idea how I passed some of the classes. It's not something I'm proud of, but yeah, I'm proud in like a non-cool way. I'm proud that I was able to pass it with as little as I went. I have no idea what I learned in law school, basically. But yeah, it was fun. See, you should have fun in law school. That's the thing. If you're going to go to law school, like I said, I've told the story again. The guy that had the study carrel next to mine in the library had this equation that says C equals JD, and I'm like, hey, you're going to be my friend. He's like, my law school diploma and my bar exam is worth exactly as much as the valedictorian's was. So there you go. I had fun. She didn't. Were you naked and or flying in that dream? No, it was just, that's just one of I have a few recurring dreams, but this isn't the recurring dream show. Maybe we'll do that on one of the unexplained. But yeah, that's one of the horrible dreams that I have. I seriously have this dream once or twice a year. It's wild. Anywho, was your house upside down? Do people have dreams where their houses are upside down? Sinking in a lake? What kind of weird dreams do you people have? Right. Was OJ in your dream? Were there gladiators in your dream? All right. That's enough. Stop it. Yeah, my 3.9 GPA is cringing presently. Oh, I graduated with honors from undergraduate. I barely made it through law school. I wasn't the greatest student, but I did somehow. Somehow I passed the bar first try. So yay me, I guess. That was in doubt too. No matter how I added up the points, I didn't come up with enough points to pass the bar. So I called the Utah State Bar like 5 times. Like, are you sure? Are you sure I passed? I'm like, yes. all right. And then I'd call a couple days later. Are you? Because I was already in Korea. I at least had that much faith in myself. I took the bar exam, and then I started my job here like 3 days later. I was like, bye, boom, I'm out of here. So I'm like, I don't want to show up. I don't want to come all the way from Korea to go there and find out that I don't get sworn in. So, are you sure I'm on? And after the 5th time, they said, yes. Would you please stop calling us? So that's another one of the dreams I have about law school. I go to the swearing in, and everybody's like, what the fuck are you doing here? You didn't pass the bar. So yeah, I just have weird recurring dreams about traumatic events. Right. So there we go. What's that? Legal Vices is just talking to a squirrel. Legal Vice is actually just talking to a squirrel in an LSD fuel craze, thinking he has a YouTube channel. That could be. All right, folks. Yes, I've already announced the new trial, the witchcraft ritual slaying trial. The name of the guy slips my mind at this point in time. But stay tuned. We're going to be doing that next Thursday and next Friday. And by next Friday, I mean tomorrow. Tomorrow, Friday evening U.S. time, 8 p.m., we're going to be doing The Unexplained with Flux. And I believe Danny on Direct is going to be there. She hasn't responded one way or the other yet, but she hasn't said no. So we're assuming Danny's going to be there. Danny on Direct, Flux and I, right here on my channel, we'll be doing cryptids, creatures, the cryptic creatures, Loch Ness Monster, Skunk Ape, Mothman, and of course, the king of the cryptids, Bigfoot. We're going to be talking about Bigfoot. I probably will share my personal Bigfoot story. And Swan Lake Lady's mom gave me 2 books about Bigfoot sightings in my own hometown. So we'll probably read some of those stories as well. Jiraiya, Bigfoot versus Yeti, cool stuff there. Then we should be talking about some Yeti stuff. But of course, that's what we plan to do. If any of you have seen our Unexplained streams, you know that we really never stay on script. We never really. And X-Ray Girl was supposed to join us, but she's had some scheduling conflicts crop up. She says she would join next time because we'll rotate to between Flux and Danny's channel, or Danny and Flux channel. I don't know which order it's going to. I don't know I can't remember what the order is, but we'll do me and then Danny and Flux, or Flux then Danny, and then it'll come back to me. But when we come back to me, we'll do ghosts. And X-Ray Girl wants to come on for the ghost stream. So Bad Duck says Flux, Danny, and Jeff in the same space is pure chaos. Right. Alan Walsh says he's seen the Loch Ness Monster. Alan Walsh, please stand by. That would be a story to hear. Because that's always been one of my obsessions, is the Loch Ness Monster. Bigfoot equals Jeff running in the woods naked? Probably not. Yeah, it'll be ghosts about about a month from now, probably. So there we go, folks. That's it. It is. It's time for me to go to sleep. 12:30 a.m. here. I don't know what Daily Quick Bites feels bad about, but oh well. There we have it. It's sad to hit the end stream on this, but that's what we've got to do, because we are at the end of OJ Simpson. So let's see where we can send y'all, shall we? We should send you somewhere. Let's see what's available that sparked my interest. YouTube. Hang tight, 198 people. And before you leave, hit that like and subscribe button. We had a record turnout for the last. Sorry. Had to check my phone there. For the last OJ Simpson trial, we got the most viewers ever. So that's cool. Court TV is now doing something called the Small Town Secrets Murder Trial. Don't know what the hell that is. New Hampshire versus Verrill. I don't know. That's not. Oh, Karen Reed trial catch up on Megan Fox. That sounds interesting. Because I know her. She's got a new lawyer, and her new lawyer wants phone records and things like that. They're saying they have phone records to prove that she was framed by the cops. So let's go on over to Megan Fox and we can learn more about the Karen Reed update. That sounds fun. All right, customization, redirect, Megan Fox, catch up. Seems like she's the only person streaming too. So, all right, everybody. Whew, we got through it. Mods, thank you so much for being your moddy best. Thank you all. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the super chats, the memberships, the monthly memberships, and just for being here, keeping me company throughout all of this, OJ. Thank you to Chandler, who's not here, and hopefully she'll hear this. If not, I'm going to thank her anyway, personally for being the co-host for just a little over a year, almost like a year and 1 month. I believe she started a year ago, February. So thanks to Chandler for sticking with it as long as she did. And we'll see you all tomorrow evening, U.S. time, 8 p.m. Eastern U.S. time. That would be midnight. Yeah, midnight UK. We'll see you there. Let's all go on over to Megan. Say hi to Megan Fox. If you're on replay, just, do whatever. We'll see you later. Where's my outro stuff? Catch you tomorrow. Where's my outro video? I'm going to play Ari's on the way out one more time. Our last time to see Ari Jacob.
And tonight on the ABC News, OJ Simpson kills one more person. Oh my God, I can't believe it. OJ kills another person? I didn't know Minute Maid orange juice could kill people. I guess what happened here was that someone poisoned the OJ and, killed somebody. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time on ABC, the horrible news in the whole world. Thank you. Well, I hope you liked how I did my commercials. I'm going to be a star. I've always been a star, I just have to go to Hollywood, and then I'll just, everybody would be like going, oh, I want your autograph. Oh, I want your autograph. But anyways, see you later. Adios. Ciao.